Hello and welcome back to part 2 of this Scriptcase video. My name is Jamie Oates and I am your host today. In today's video we are creating this expense management system which displays your in, your out, your savings, has also a nice little chart and allows us to create our expenses. Now so far we have just developed the form, and for the form we've already added all of the fields. We've added the option to automatically add the date and hide the date field, as well as then add the alternative options that we have here, as well as then the wizard aspect of the form. Okay, so the form is pretty much ready and we need to continue on developing the rest of the applications, and we still have a few more to make, which would then be basically the menu application, a blank application, and also a chart application. Now the next thing I want to do is now the grid expenses, and the first thing I'm going to do here is remove the link between the form and the grid. Now you may remember that the grid and the form were both generated at the same time using up here the batch applications option, and that automatically created this linkage between the two applications. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that here because that's not needed or wanted within this grid application, and then running the grid we can have a quick look at what it looks like. So we have here all of the basic details, and this will of course be for the back end or the administration of, and that would then be available for them there. So within this grid application we can make some very quick changes here for the fields that are displayed. So we don't want some of these options here displayed, and we also want some of these other options displayed within here. So here we want the actual expense date, as well as possibly the description if that's something you want to include, and then we can also make adjustments to where these options are all displayed here. So we have here first of all our login and our date, and we can see here that is then presented on the left and center, right. So there's a bit of a mess here, so I'm just going to quickly adjust all of these so that they are all on the left hand side, and that will just clean that up really quickly. And then here the amount, I will center that one. Okay, so I'll run that again. I will see now that the new fields have been added, and also, so if I zoom out a little bit, that the new fields have been added, and we have all of our options now displayed as we want them. So we need to adjust here the types, remove here the details possibly if that is something you want to do. We will do that on the other grids. On this grid I will not be applying that, but on the other grids we will. Okay, so here I also want to come here to the settings and apply the vertical alignment top, and come here to the grid modules, and here I will leave all of the options because it's in the admin side of things, and just apply a width of 100% and run that again, and that will already make a big difference with this grid application. Okay, so we have then our fields, and we have then the type. So we have an integer, so I'll just adjust here the title, and I need to apply a lookup method here. So there I will choose the automatic and create my select, choosing the type fields. Now remember I had shown in the first video the database, and that will of course then all tie together with this very quickly and easily. And again for the subtype, we apply again, choose the subtype table, choose the subtype field, add the connection, and then also for the minor type. Okay, so we don't need to change any of the data type. The field can stay an integer, even though it will be displayed as text, and we will see that in a moment. Okay, so then we have then the minor type, choose the minor type, choose the connection. If I go ahead and run that, the numbers will now be replaced with text, like so. Okay, so we have all of our identities pretty much displayed here. Okay, so the expense grid application is quite straightforward. There's not much to it. We're not adding further options here. We can maybe add some further options here to the expense amount field and specify that that is a currency format, and run that again, and that will then display the local currency. Okay, so that's very important to indicate. I usually do not enable this option. I would use then a custom option for this, and in this case, because it is only English, I will be enabling the currency field, and then for English users using it, it will then display the pound value. Okay, so for the login, of course, that is a blank field. We do not have security added to this, so that is something you will have to add, and then you can, of course, insert that field, and then that field would also be populated. We have then our details all ready to go. Nothing further needed with this grid application. Okay, so we can close that, and then we have here our final forms. We have here our minor type, subtype, and our type. So if I go ahead and open all three of those, and then with each of these, we can then go ahead and customize the forms. So I'll go ahead and run, first of all, here the type. We have here the type in, out, savings, as well as then the color. So we want to change this here to a color field. So let's go ahead and quickly do that. Here the color field, and we can choose here the data type, and we have here then the HTML color. And by choosing that, we have then here the option to use the color palette, and that will then allow us to further customize the colors that are available to the end users. So if you wanted to change the colors, we can simply remove them here and then just search for HTML, CSS typical color value that we can place in here, and then we just need to separate that then with a comma each time. And then we can then have our own colors displayed here. For now, I'm just going to leave it as it is and have those colors displayed as default. Okay, so that is then another form done, but we do want to make another change here for the settings, the vertical alignment again, and here the table width. I will also choose 100%, not 1000. Okay, and there we have width percent indicated already. So if I run that now, the form will now also be nicely aligned with the rest of the applications. Okay, so then we have our subtype, and here if we run this one, we can have a quick look at this, and we have here again another color field, and we have here a type field which we need to adjust. So if I come first for the settings, I'll apply the vertical alignment and the 100%, and that is done. And then I can come here to the fields. Now, generally for the ID field that we have here, so even here for the type, generally would actually go ahead and remove that. It's not really needed. Not many people really care about the number. It really depends on what the purpose is of your application. So in this case, we don't really need it. So I will shorten those and apply that. And then also here, we have then the type and color. And then there is less confusion with anything else. So then we have our type form, and now our subtype form also pretty much completed. We still have here a type form here, type field, sorry. So if I come here then to ID expenses type, select is already indicated, and here I need to complete the create select and choose here the type table and make sure the correct field expense type is selected. Say yes and choose the connection. Now that again is another form completed, and we have then, we still need to apply here the color field, so the subtype HTML color, and again I will leave that as default, and we'll have then a default color option, so that is the alternative. Okay, so that is the alternative to using here the color palette, right? So I will enable this option here, and then for our minor type, well, let's run this form because we had here the multiple instead, which is slightly different, and come back here to settings. So apply the same settings again, alignment top, 100%, so that they all look the same. And then I'll come here to the edit fields, and I'll remove the main ID field again, save that. The minor type is a text field. We have no color fields this time, but we do have two type fields. So let's complete here the lookup. So the first one is our type, and make sure that is correctly selected. And then we have here also the subtype, and there we also need to select the correct fields for the selection and choose the connection. Now in these cases, I think it would be a good idea to also enable the option for use title, so that then the fields are blank when we insert them, so that if I run the form now, and if I go add new, we now have a title here instead of straight away in and bank account, for instance, and that will then at least give those options. Now we do actually want to make the adjustments here so that our type and subtype match up. So for the expenses here, we do want to apply our where statement again. So the easiest for that would be to come here for our form expenses, and of course we had that here for our subtype, our minor type, and of course we could go ahead and replicate that again for our minor type here. So if I just copy that, and that can then be placed in here, and then we can run that, and we have an error, of course, because the field here is not the same. ID expenses subtype is actually quite longer here, as I noticed. So type, and this is actually the type field that we want, not subtype. So let's correct that first of all, and then we want to add here expenses underscore type, as we have within our field here, and underscore, and then we can run that again, and that should be now, and we're still getting unknown column, expenses subtype ID expenses type in where clause. Okay, let's have another look at that. So where expenses subtype, and here we don't want this here for this field. Select from, so let's check our table expenses, and we have here ID expenses underscore type, which is actually what we are wanting, where ID expenses underscore type equals expenses type, which is then our field here. Okay, so that's corrected now, and if I go ahead and run, then our error message will now be gone. And now this time when we go add, and I choose here in, we have still to add the Ajax. So let's add that first of all here for the type. Scrolling down, enable Ajax, enable it for the field on run. And now this time when we click here on in, add new, in, and it now loads the field for me. You see? Okay, so just like that, we can then have the relevant options displayed as and when they should be. Okay, so that's our three forms completed. We could make further adjustments to those if we wanted, but for now, we pretty much have all of our three forms here ready. Okay, so four forms even, sorry. So our type forms, as well as the expenses form, and even our grid expenses. So all of these are ready to go. So we still have our grid expenses in, out, and savings. So if I go ahead and open each of these three, and of course they are again going to be very similar to each other because they are again containing the same data. Now the important thing here is how I actually created these specific views. So if you remember, at the beginning of the video, we had here the database, and of course the views are not displayed here, but they are generated from these tables. And to do that, I've basically used here the database SQL builder option. So I'd come in here, I would choose then my tables, add them, confirm that, choose then the fields that I want to have displayed within this, and add them also, confirm that, and then provide the joins. Now this is a very basic database, so the joins are very simple. Each one of them is basically a left join, selecting then the type, the subtype, the minor type, linking it to the expenses table, as we had seen here within the database. They all join with this one here, you see? Okay, so that's very important to highlight, and with that then I then basically enter into my PHPMyAdmin, perform an SQL search, just a query basically with the output of the SQL builder, the code that it then generates you, and then make some further adjustments if needed concerning the what you are searching for or relevant fields that you do not want to have included and so forth, and then you can basically just save that query as a view within PHPMyAdmin. And then with that, we can then have access to that within Scriptcase and generate specific views for our users. Okay, so in this case, we have the expenses in, and we are only displaying all of the data concerning the incoming amounts, whether that be for employment, part-time, or whatever that may be. So in this case, we have then also the in, out, and also the savings, each one with the SQL basically, which is then viewing those specific views. But each of these views is just the same view and then where the specific type is X. Okay, and then that X would then be 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so for those views, as I said, they were very quickly generated here, and we can then continue on with these grids, make further adjustments as we want the data displayed for our front-end users, because that's what this grid would be displayed for. And there we would maybe want to have the subject, the amount, the type would be at the top here. We can have the expense date there also, and maybe you would want to have the minor type and even the expense date added. Now, the type itself, so where's the type colors we don't need, the subtype color we don't need, the expense type we don't need because we know it is an in already. Okay, and then we have then the login, subtype, minor type, subject, amount, and then we want to replicate that then for each of these. So let's come here to the edit, and we can then quickly go ahead and just adjust these fields again. So do we have a, yes, there's a login, and then we have our minor type, not the type color, expense type's not needed, subject, amount, and there we have that then again for the savings and edit fields. And there we remove half of these fields again and add those that are relevant to what we want to have displayed. Okay, so there we have then our fields or our grid applications pretty much ready. They may require some further adjustments. Of course, that will be down to you to decide what further fields are required. But in general, we want to have, of course, everything available for the end user. So in this case, we come here to our settings, and for the settings again, yes, the vertical alignment. We have then also in grid modules, we have then here our width that I want to apply, the 100%. Now, one further adjustment I want to make here is remove the search, detail, summary, and chart options. We don't want those. And then I want to come down here to the group by, and I want to start creating some group bys here so that when I run this grid application, I can actually have a group by option here and filter the data that I am actually viewing. So this maybe isn't the best grid to do that on, but so let's come here to the expenses out. There we have more data. Okay, so let's quickly jump through this and make the same adjustments again. So we have here, first of all, the grid modules. I will remove all of these that we are not wanting or using within this application. Set the width at 100%. Change the settings and enable the vertical alignment to top. And I can quickly also apply that here to the expenses in, just very quickly. And just like that, we are pretty much done. And we have made quite a big change to each of these grid applications. And there we have it. So there we have our grid in with the custom fields. We don't have our 100% width there applied. So let's make sure the percentage there is enabled. And then of course we have our grids pretty much ready. Now, as I was saying, what we want to do then is also add the option to dynamically group our data, and that will then also help us when it comes then to the charts and so forth, because then we can generate charts from the data that we have within this, if that is something we wanted to do. So the group by, that is also a feature that I've added within the admin by default. I haven't gone through it here within the videos because of course we are applying it here for these free grid applications already. So here I have first of all the dynamic field options, and we choose here the select fields. I can then drag and drop the types of fields that I want. Now, expense type, I do not want that because we know we are already in the type out. So I do want the subtype, I do want the minor type, I also want the expense date, I want the date added also, but let's move these to the top there. And minor type we have already, and you may want to give the option for the expense subject. That is of course entirely down to you. So then for the grid totals and summary totals, we do want here the amount. and then also the record count. Now, in some cases, you may want to add also an extra expense amount and not only display the sum, but also maybe an average, which is something I have done within the grid applications created previously. So now with the dynamic, we see it all added just like that, because of course I have them all checked. So having them all checked here will then automatically enable them and display them within the application. And just by unchecking them, voila, they are gone. And that instead will give us then the group by button, which is also available in the other case, but in this case it is of course much better for us, and then we can just simply drag the type that we want to group by straight in there, and we can see, okay, everything we have organized nicely, see how much money we are making, and of course again for each of these charts we want to make further adjustments, and we can do that here within the settings. For instance, we can group by the line, we can add a title for the record count, we can use dynamic totalizations and make further adjustments to the group by and so forth. Now for the fields, we can make further adjustments to the fields. For instance here, the expense date, we may want to change that to year and month instead of year. So that may be, again, an option that we can then apply. And then for each of those fields, because of course these fields, don't forget we have then the subtype, the lookup method is inherited from the grid by default. And that is why, of course, we have then the lookup method here, bills, house, or automatically defined. We do not have to actually apply or make any changes there for this grid application because we already applied it here for the fields. Now for the dates, however, we can make further adjustments here also. For instance, we can remove the regional settings and change this, for instance, to an FY. Now if you need to know more about the dates, you can click here the question mark, and that will open this lovely little window and then show us all of the options that we have here. And there you see the FY, so that will then display the month and year instead of the date as we have it at the moment. So that is something I have gone ahead and applied to all of the other grid applications, so that then that is displayed nicely within the application. Now do you remember that is then for the group by, okay? And of course for the dates. So I need to apply then the date, and then we can have that then January, February, March, nice and clean, indicating exactly what it is for exact the month that we want to see. Okay, so that is basically what you would want to apply to each three of these applications. Now on top of the dynamic group by, you can of course set a static group by, which is again something I have added within the platform or portal that you will be downloading. So within that, I have gone ahead and made some further adjustments here. I have also added a static group by, and to do that, we make it in the same way. So let's go ahead and add a static group by here to, first of all, the grid expenses that we created previously, and the grid savings in and out, all three then have then the dynamic group by. So here for the static group by, we can again come here to the left-hand menu, choose then the static group by, new group by, and again we just drag and drop our fields in here. Now for this form we have then the type, subtype, and then the minor type. Now the subject, we don't want the subject there, but then we do want the expense date. Now for the date again we want year and month. And then we have our type, subtype, and minor type, and then we have then here our totals, and here our record count. Now here I will go ahead and add the extra amount, and that will then display the average. So if I go ahead and run that, it will be a little crazy because of course I've just added lots of fields in there because it's by month, by type, by subtype, by minor type. And that is why it is best sometimes to have the option to dynamically apply these conditions that we want to have displayed within our grid application. So I will leave that there. And again, for the settings, there are no settings really for the static group by, but we can make settings to the group by individually here for the settings. Okay, so that'll take us back to this option field again. And for the fields, again, we can apply here the FY and apply then our type, subtype, minor types if needed. But again, we had added them previously for our fields. So in the case of hidden fields, if we were to come here to edit fields and hidden our type, subtype and minor type fields and placed them down here and not configured them straight away, then of course within the options that we have available for our group by, they will not be pre-configured. So in those cases, you will need to come here and add the lookup manually. Okay, but in this case, you see that it has been added automatically and it's all there. And we can of course go ahead and then make further adjustments to this if we wanted to, even go ahead and of course remove this crazy group by that I have added here. But of course it is what makes sense. Date, type, subtype, minor type. Now you can make further changes to the how this grid functions. For instance, in this case, 10 lines may not be enough, as we see here, so we may want to increase this, let's say, to 100 lines, or even remove the pagination entirely and provide an infinite scroll option. That would also be an option. So I will display partial as we have already, and actually display 50 lines here, so that then we have a bit more data displayed within this grid application, and we can actually see that then. Okay, so it is a little crazy, and yes, like I said, we can remove all of these options. So maybe in this case I should go ahead and remove some of those now. So let's go ahead and remove here the average. We don't need the count at the bottom here, and we can just leave that like so. And let's remove here also the types, because why? We have them displayed here within our grid application. So that's really not needed. In this case, I'm just going to leave the expense date. It's enough, and that displays then monthly beautifully for us for this application. And again, of course, we've increased the total amounts of items displayed for us. Okay, so for this grid application, we don't have anything else to do there. That grid is complete. But for our grid expenses, in, out, and savings, I do have one extra addition that I had included within the project created previously. So we have there an on-record event. So if I go ahead and run the grid expenses in again, and now this is applied to each of those free grid applications, so in, out, and savings, and for each of those I have added a colored option for the employment, for the subtype, as well as then the type, and that then changes then the color. So what I've basically done there, I've applied a variable to the type color field as well as the subtype color field, which have been defined within the database, and we have also configured within each of the form types or the type forms. Where I'm then also using the SC macro, SC field underscore color, and choosing the subtype field, and or in this case it should be the type field and the subtype field. Okay, in whichever order it is, minor type and subtype, and then of course it will then display the color on those fields. Now then, if you go ahead and run that, then you'll see then that the fields have then been updated with the colors accordingly that have been saved and stored within the back end. Okay, so that is then applied to each of these grid applications. So let me quickly jump in there, jump into the out grid as well as then the savings grid. We can quickly see here the events on record, paste that in there also, and also for the out. And now each of these then also have the same colorization that have applied for each of the other applications. Okay, so let me close those. Okay, there is maybe a mistake there in the variable, but that is corrected within the portal. Okay, so I won't pay much attention to that in this moment. We need to pretty much get cracking on with the the chart application, our dashboard, and our menu. So let's go ahead and create very quickly our chart application. So here I have a chart application. I will choose the expenses table. I'll leave all the default fields, click create, and with that, my chart is then pretty much ready. All I need to do now is add the dimensions and metrics, and just as previously we have the option to drag and drop. Okay, so again, type, subtype, minor type, and expense date. Now expense date, I'll go with year and month. For the metrics, we'll have amount, and well, let's skip the record count, we'll just go with amount. Okay, so then if we go ahead and run that, as it is, we already have a very basic chart. And well, very basic I say, because in fact it is pretty advanced already. We have all of these options so that we can already go and change each of our settings. And you can see here we have that then already available in drill down, and we have some adjustments there that we need to make. So to do those, we need to make some changes here to our chart, of course. So first option, we have our sorting, we have our search. Now I could specify specific search fields, which I had actually done within the original project, and we can also make further adjustments to the chart. So I can change the specific chart that will be displayed straight away. Change the font size, change the width, remove the drill down to a multi-series. I prefer the drill down, so we'll leave that as it is. I will also enable here the grand total, because it is funds and we are basically counting. So let's have then there the grand total displayed, and then with that we can make further adjustments here to our dimension fields, where we have then our expense date. So here we could apply then the regional settings again, and the display, and here again FY. So we have then the month and then the year. For the type, we will need to indicate here a lookup. So again, automatic lookup, and here we'll choose then our type. Make sure we have our correct fields and our connection selected, and again also for the subtype. There, the subtype selected, choose the correct field, okay that, and then also again for our minor type. So for the minor type, again choose the correct fields and the connection. We can run that again, and then just like that, instead of having 1, 2, 3 there now, we will actually have some data. And I guess I just removed the drill down, did I? So let me come back here to charts, and no, drill down still there. Remove the grand total. Yeah, it's the grand total displayed all of them. Okay, so that's not what we wanted. We actually wanted to retain here the monthly that we have going. Okay, so then we have then the drill down available for that, and as we see now, we have our types indicated, 9 to 5, employment, and so forth, all nicely indicated there. Now we can make further adjustments here to the chart and change how some of it is looking. For instance, nudge it up to the top, as well as change the titles. For instance, we can add a title here. For instance, your chart, your expenses, we can change it from being responsive, so it isn't responsive no more. We can enable or change the vertical alignment of the chart and so forth. So I'm going to apply those and pretty much leave it as it is for the time being, and then jump on to our next application, which is then first of all just a blank application. So if I create our blank, I could just leave it as blank actually, and then for the blank here we can then simply add some text, which then this is my piggy bank, just like so. And of course we can add images in there like I had done within the demonstration and so forth, and that is then already a dashboard, so to say, ready that we can further customize with some Bootstrap or some custom dashboard interfaces, or even use the dashboard interface here if you prefer that. That is entirely up to you. So for the menu, let's jump into the menu. For the menu application, we can very quickly choose or click the Import Applications button, and that will open this lovely little window where we can then simply choose all of our applications. I will remove the blank, and then we can just go ahead and click Import. That will then add all of these applications as we see here in the demonstration for us. I will click Save so that they have been added. Okay, otherwise that could cause some issues, and then we can go ahead and make some adjustments here to each of the titles. So in this case it is the chart. Okay, and I'll just move that down here. I will then add, say, another one. Let me go ahead and save that quickly, because when we add new fields sometimes it gets a little temperamental. So I'll add this here, and I'll call that one manage. Okay, and save that, and then here our type, minor type, subtype, our grid expenses, all of those I actually want to jump down to the bottom here. So then we will let's leave those checked and then nudge them to the right already. And then here, the manage, let's move that one down. And now each of those are displayed only within the manage option here. Now the chart, I will move that down here next to the manage. Then we have our in, out, and savings. The form expenses, I will remove that and go ahead and click on save. Okay, so we can very quickly then go ahead and adjust the titles of these, and then we are pretty much ready. Need to spell chart correctly, which I actually had there already. And of course we can customize the titles of each of these. Save that. Choose the specific menu theme that you want to use. And then what I had also done is I had adjusted here the layout and dragged some options into here. And for the second one here I had added a title and saved that. And with that it would use here the header footer title that is available or displayed here. So there I would then add the expense management system, and that would then be displayed via this layer here. Within this layer here I had added an image, and there I had actually downloaded some icons from a website, which I'm sorry I do not remember today, so that's why I'm not using them today. And there with that I could then go ahead and add that extra icon or image that I actually want to have displayed there. So let's actually search for a money icon again. And there we can then add, say, a money stack, a stack of money. And that is then displayed there within the menu. And then, of course, within the settings, we may want to make further adjustments here so that the menu is actually on the right-hand side. And the final option that we need here is the menu items. We have added already, but you may have noticed there was also a toolbar option, which is what had actually opened up the form. So add expense, and there we need to then link this to our form application, okay, which is what this window was just opened by me clicking on the link here. And there I can then choose the application that I want to link it to, which is here the form expenses. I can import that, run that again, and now our menu will be slightly different. In out savings chart manage, add expenses, and there we then have our form, our in, our out, our savings, and our chart. Now within the platform downloaded, I had also added icons here, which you for sure remember, as well as within the menu. Now the icons within the menu structure, they were not added here. Okay, there I had added the icon for the logo, but within the menu items, we have further options here where we can actually add an icon using the image library, or we can also use font awesome icons if that's something you prefer. So we have here the option to change the display from text and image to text and font awesome icon. So that may be the quickest and best option. And then just like that, we can change here the icon and search for something that is a little more suitable, maybe using a font awesome icon or an alternative, of course. Okay, so that is pretty much it. We have our platform pretty much ready. So let's quickly check it out. If I run it again from the beginning here,
you've got mail,
and generate all of our applications quickly, run that, we will then have the expense system. Now we could make some further adjustments here, aligning the text a bit better, changing it to white, adding a different logo or a different icon and so forth, and even customizing the colors more. But in general, we are now able to add our expenses just as we had done so here. Clicking next, of course, filling in the mandatory fields they are required, and then we could of course continue on viewing the money that we have saved, and then also we have a nice chart where we can then view that on a monthly basis, where have all of our pennies gone to. Okay, so I hope you have enjoyed today's video, and I look forward of course to the live webinar where I will be going through it again and making some further adjustments, as well as possibly some further additions. So if you ever do have time for the webinar, do check it out. Do join at some point. Otherwise, of course, do give the video a like, subscribe, and of course you could learn a great deal more with many of the videos that we have available within the Scriptcase library. So thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.